Hi, I'm Jill Ferris. This is Cooking for Bachelors. We're gonna have a fish and shrimp dinner. I'm starting with this red snapper, which is absolutely beautiful. The way I order my fish is butterfly, head and tail on. I just like the head and tail because there's actually meat all the way down, and sometimes butchers will cut and kind of jip you of that good meat. Butterfly means that the bones are taken out. But do be careful and feel around your fish before you cook it or after you cook it before you eat it to see if there indeed are any bones that are left. You know a fish is fresh if it smells like the sea. If it has that funky fish odor, it's probably not fresh. And the other way you could tell, well, especially in a fresh fish, is if the eyes are nice and clear. And these red snappers, they're beautiful red eyes, and they're certainly clear. We're gonna stuff this fish with vegetables and cook it closed in the foil in the oven. First thing you wanna do is, after the fish is of course cleaned, is make some slices in the body so you can fit some stuff in there. You'll do it on both sides. You don't have to go all the way through. You just wanna make a little slice. And we're gonna stuff a bunch of things in there. And again, this is up to you. Here's what I'm going to use. I'm gonna put some garlic slices. I like to always put my garlic right inside the meat there because it really helps all of the meat to get flavored. So our garlic slices are going in the skin and they're going inside as well. Now remember, when you're cooking garlic like this, it's not going to be potent. The way it's really, really potent is when you crush it in little pieces and eat it raw. Okay. I also love to put lemons in this and tomatoes. I think we're going to put some tomatoes right in the cavity, and we'll save some for the outside. We're going to use some dill. I'm just going to put it in there whole like that and grab it out when we're finished because I don't always like to eat the dill. And the parsley. Again, everything is your choice. You can use fresh ginger, you can use peppers if you like, and I also like in this to use scallions. And scallions are a little bit different than onions because they're very green and have that fresh flavor. So I'm going to close this up. I'm going to add some more lemons. I mean, this is just amazing. Isn't that beautiful? All right, we're going to sprinkle some sea salt because that's where we come from. And some fresh ground pepper. And you really don't need much more than that. I'm going to start bringing it up and making a pocket, and then I'll be able to pour my wine in. Make sure that your foil fits your fish before you do this step, because if you get a new piece of foil, you're going to drop a lot of this, so be careful. So I'm going to crush it at the ends to make sure I have these little pockets that I can pour my wine into. And I'm going to pour white wine. It's just going to cover the bottom a little bit. I'll tell you how much for this. Maybe about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch at the bottom. It's kind of wet. I don't know if you could see that. And that's going to steam right in the wine. Leave some space. You want some steaming space in there, but you want to close it all up. This should go in the oven for about 20 minutes. That all depends on how big your fish is. This is a fairly large fish, as you could see. There are fish that are half this size, and 10 to 15 minutes are fine. You don't want to overcook the fish, but in this method, they really won't overcook because it's got the wine, it will stay wet, it will not dry out. We're going to put this in the oven and come back and do the vegetables. I had to squish the foil down to fit it in there. You make sure you have room for it. I'm going to make some rice. Now you might say, oh, a cooking show? Rice? Well, making perfect rice is not so easy, and I'll show you the best way. We have basmati rice, and that's really a lovely rice, and actually is a long grain. It is a whole grain, so it's as healthy for you as a brown rice. We're going to put olive oil in and be fairly generous, as you can see me sprinkling it through. That really will give it a nice flavor. And salt. Again, this is your personal taste, but you can always add salt later. Now, here's the trick. You have to add water. Some people say use a whole thumb. nail over. But we're only making rice for 1 or 2 people. So we're going to just add enough water to double the volume of the rice. It is, I've got to show you this, and we'll look at it on the stove again flat, because it's very important that you have the right proportions. You don't have to measure. It really is all about the eye. You want a little bit more water than your rice. The more rice you have, the more proportion of water. It's not really 1-to-1, but you can think of it like that. You're making very little rice here. Now here's a very important part. Very, very low flame. Rice will burn very easily. You want to cook it on a very low flame. You don't want to mix it in between. You will know when your rice is ready when you smell rice. I'm not going to leave that to judgment alone. You might want to check it a few times. You don't have to mix it, but we're really talking about maybe 10 minutes here for that amount of rice. We're going to make vegetables now. We have kale and shiitake mushrooms. First, I'm going to put olive oil in the pan. And like I said, all of my vegetables get done the same way. Put olive oil in the pan and then some slithered garlic, and it cooks all at the same time. This is really a great dish with the combination of vegetables. Now let me show you. This is Jacinto kale. There's curly kale, and this is like a flat kale. I think they also call it elephant ears. Do you want to know why? All right, and this is how you can cut it. This is fairly wide, so I'm going to cut the whole pile. It's already washed and trimmed. I'm going to cut the whole pile in half, put it together. Make it easy. You don't have to cut one individual piece at a time. And then just cut it into slices like this. This is really, it will steam. Again, every green vegetable has its own water content, and that's all it needs to steam. And it's looking like this, and we're going to throw the mushrooms in. Actually, I'm going to throw the mushrooms also toward the bottom. I'm going to cover it, and we're going to wait to put this on the flame because this is going to take a shorter time to cook than the fish will. So it's going to sit there, and we're going to move on to our shrimp dish. Now, you're going to see repeat in ingredients that I use, and there's a good reason for that. These are the purest ingredients, and these are what make food taste delicious. You don't have to get complicated in your ingredients. It's just a matter of simple, delicious cooking at the right timing, the right temperatures. We have olive oil and butter in this one. We're going to add our slithered garlic. We're adding a lot here because this is shrimp scampi, and this should be garlicky. So we're going to let our oil heat with the butter. Now here's a careful thing because butter has a lower temperature than olive oil for heating. So you've got to watch this carefully and blend it together. Also, what's wonderful in here is crushed red peppers. I also like to use a lot of heat, and you've seen that in my recipes. Oh, this was very generous, and it's going to be very delicious. While I'm doing that, I think it's time to turn on the flame for the kale. You can see the rice. I don't know if you can see this, but the rice is starting to steam, so I'm going to just check it. All right, not bad. It's about halfway through. I'm going to mix the butter and the oil together to make sure that it's blended. I smell garlic and the butter and the olive oil. That's delicious. All right, we'll just throw in other things now, waiting for the oil to heat up enough to cook our shrimp. I'll throw in the parsley. Let me talk to you about shrimp. When you buy shrimp, the best way to buy it is frozen. Because basically, that's the way shrimp comes into our markets, is frozen. When you buy it, what you think is fresh is defrosted already, which is not a good idea to refreeze it. The best way to buy shrimp is to go into the market and buy a bag of frozen shrimp. They're individually flash frozen, so you can use as many or as little as you want when you're cooking. And then you just keep that in the freezer, and it's one of the fastest things. If you have frozen shrimp, all you have to do is set it in warm water for just a few minutes. So if you need a dinner in a pinch, having shrimp in your house is really great. We're serving it with rice today, but you can also serve it over pasta. So I'm going to lay them in one at a time because I don't want them to step on top of each other. Now, shrimp does not have to be cooked very long, just like other fish. It's really going to cook quickly, and how are you going to know? It's going to be pink. And once you start seeing it pink around the edges, then you turn it over to the other side. Can fit a few more in. I'm going to have a look at our rice. Almost done. What I see now is no more liquid, but I could see that it needs a little bit more time. All right, our shrimp are starting to turn pink. I'm still squishing them in there. I think we've reached capacity. Now I'm going to check on the rice again. If you want to take a peek, you can take a utensil and just push it around. And you'll see, is the bottom dry or does it have water? At this point, you can mix it up a little. And I think that looks great. That's perfect rice, right there. You're going to turn that off. Now, if it's, let's say, a little bit undercooked and you're not sure, turning it off and letting it sit there for a few minutes is only going to benefit. If there's any moisture, it will be absorbed. Leaving the flame on might burn it. So you're better off just, if you're not sure, turn it off, leave the cover on just a few minutes, and the water will be absorbed. It looks like our shrimp is just about ready to start turning over. So I'm going to turn them over one at a time. You can do it all at once, but I know I put them in there very individually, so I'm going to try to turn them over at the same time. That's great. That's looking great. Okay, while that's cooking, I'm just going to get my salt and pepper. And we're going to add that at this time. Sea salt. It's always the best with the seafood especially. Not that you can't put it on everything. And our fresh ground pepper. We'll continue turning over the shrimp. You can see they're all nice and pink. All right, there we go. And I'm just going to put a little splash of wine. And let that sizzle a little. All right, let's check on our kale. Oh, well, the garlic is getting a nice sizzle. Let's check on that here. The mushrooms are wilting as well as the kale. I'm going to toss that around. Now, I don't add salt to vegetables until they're finished because salt will make them sweat or bleed, which means there'll be a lot of water content and it will get soggier. I like to add the salt and the pepper to vegetables when they're all finished cooking. And that way everybody could do it individual taste. Well, it looks like our shrimp are done. So I think we can start plating our dinner. Here are beautiful red snappers come out of the oven. And I'm just going to taste this sauce. I taste the wine and the lemon and the fish. It's just wonderful. And to accompany it, we have perfectly cooked basmati rice, a great shrimp scampi, garlic, red peppers, parsley and oil, and these beautiful shiitake mushrooms and kale, which we're going to add some salt to because remember we didn't salt it when it was cooking. And again, it's add your own to your taste. Now I'd like you to try this at home. I think this is going to be a great meal, and you can do any part of it, whether you want just the shrimp and the rice or the whole thing.